it was cement floor. The top was wooden floor, of course, but cement floor, and I was on the bottom floor, and it was cement, but we only had one mat and one blanket each.
What, those tatami mats, was it?
One of those macrame mats, yeah. And only had one of them each, and one blanket each. That's all the bedding we had. No pillow, no nothing like that. And so when it was really cold, and I meant really cold, give you an idea how cold it was, that they had a barreled wooden barrel, around about 40 to 50 gallon barrel, with the top off it, water in it for fire stuff, you know, fibre caution.
Yes.
It had to be kept full of water. It would in turn, they'd fill it up fresh and it'd turn into ice within hours inside the building.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it was damn cold, and we took to sleeping in pairs. So they'd give us an extra blanket over each other, you know, and the warmth of one another.
And a body warmth, yes.
Body warmth.
Yeah.
And shared one another's lice. We were absolutely riddled with lice.
Yes.
Oh, lice, you got no idea.
And when was the first time you got lice? Had you had it all the time, or?
We had lice. There was lice along the Burma line, but they didn't worry me because I had nothing to wear. All I had was my jockstrap. I had the leg off a pair of shorts. I tied it together with a knot, and then I had a bit of string that I put round my waist and tucked it in. So all that was covered with me was that much.
Yes.
And that much. That's all that was covered.
Yes.
The rest was, and most of the boys were the same.
Yes.
And well, they might have had a bit more jockstrap. But your jockstrap, you'd go down the river, you'd have a wash, take your jockstrap off, wash. When you got to wring your jockstrap out, dry yourself, put your jockstrap back on again. Yeah.
Very versatile piece of equipment.
that was your ablutions, you know.
Yeah.
So.
So back to Sakata, you were sleeping on a tatami mat, and you were sharing with a mate to get 2 blankets. Yeah. Did you ever have anything better than the mat? Did you ever have a straw mattress, or?
Not. That was the first time we'd had mats. Before that, we'd have even had mats.
Nothing, no.
All along the Burma line, we had no mats.
Yeah.
We used to sleep naked.
Yeah.
On the bamboos on the Burma line were big, you know, bamboos. And so you'd get one, say, cut it 6 foot 6 long, 6 foot long, whatever. And then you'd bash it around until it was all splintered and open it up, and one bamboo made a bed. So you just put that up on the whatever sort of a bamboo trestle you make, just put up on that, and you slept on that naked, and you woke up in the morning with all the bamboo grooves in you.
Yes, yeah.
And you used to sleep on because you're that tired that you go straight to sleep, you know.
Yes.
So but we had mats, though they're only mats. Well, they still didn't issue us with boots. But we used to get straw and make some. They showed us how to make a straw thing, and a straw thing might last you 2 or 3 days if you're lucky on your feet.
Like a sandal, was it?
Yeah, make it like a sandal. Yeah, well, you'd weave this straw and make it like a sandal. But in the snow, it was so. The snow started after we got there, and they said it was the worst year they'd had in Christ knows how many years. And we never saw the ground for 7 months. Yes. And
was that just snow, or was it snow and ice?
Snow and ice. Snow, well, mainly snow because it had turned to ice. You know, if it thawed out a bit during the night or day, you know, what thawed out that there'd be ice tomorrow sort of business. So we had a fence 18 feet around us, with high wooden fence. You couldn't see that. Our parade was held above that. And they're the pretty rugged. What I was doing there mainly, they used to bring rafts down from Hokkaido, and these rafts of logs, they'd have 5,000 logs in them. And we have to pull them to bits. And what they'd do, they'd pull them out, they'd have this logged off area that they were wired together with dogs and cable. They'd open them up when the tide was coming in, and they'd float them up the river. Then when the tide was about to turn, they'd join these cables back again to the shore, and they'd be corralled up above there and wouldn't come back because they couldn't get back with the tide. So we used to have to bring them into the shore. They'd winch them up onto the shore, but then we had to manhandle them into heaps. From there, we had a long handle like that with a thing with a spike on it. You drive it in and you'd all chant and in the sun, yawn, and you know, and all go together and roll them. And you had to stack them 5 or 6 high, you know. And
when you were chanting, was it in English or Japanese?
Japanese. In the sun, yawn. And anyhow, after the latter part, all I was doing was bringing them. We worked in we'd go and unload coal boats. Coal boats had a big box that you put on their back, this big box, and it had a flap at the bottom and held up with a rope. So you'd go down the hull, you'd back up to the bloke with the shovel, he'd fill it up, and you'd go up and walk up in the heat and let your coal out, and then go back and get another load. And then done a bit of in smelters there. They used to make ingots, and you used to have to push the little train thing of ingots down. So, but I didn't do. But most of the time I was on there and loading the logs on the railway trucks. We used to have ropes to do that. We'd get them up into your trucks and put your things up. Then you'd get a heap of jokers the other side the truck and roll them up like you would with as if you had a vehicle pulling the ropes.
Yes.
And they'd load them that way. And but the biggest problem was when snow was there, that these ropes had turned to ice, and you're trying to pull up ropes, and you've got no gloves or anything, and you're trying to pull up ropes for this, that your hands are slipping on this ice, and of course it used to cause a bit of a problem.
Yes.
It caused me a particular problem because I pinched a pumpkin from the Jap kitchen, and I took it into the billets, and I threw it on the ground, and it burst into 7 pieces. So 6 of my mates grabbed a bit, I grabbed a bit, and this stitched lemon, he grabbed a bit. And anyhow, we're eating it like watermelon, skin and all. And the Jap interpreter come in and caught us. But I think he came in looking for it because probably the Jap cooks only had 1 pumpkin for the week at any rate. So he gave us all a fair sort of a whack around the face. And he said, "Now I shall punish you." And I said to Tits, I said, "Oh, I better own up, I suppose." So I owned up foolishly. Well, so they stood me in just a pair of shorts out by the guardhouse in the snow. And that was about 6:30 at night. And I stood in front of the guardhouse, had no shoes on, just a pair of shorts, nothing else. And I wanted to close my hand when they started to get cold, and they come out and bashed them with a rifle and made me straight, because Japs stand with their hands straight in attention. But stand at attention. Gradually got colder and colder, and then the pain set in. Oh, God, you got no idea. nobody's ever frozen. They can tell you what the pain really is like. And anyhow, yes, you had pain after pain. Eventually the pain went away, and the next day, about nearly 24 hours later, about 22 hours later, the boys came in from work, and I'm still standing there, and the one of the other blokes had done something wrong, Albie. So they come, they brought Albie out to stand beside me, but he'd only been there about 2 hours. When the boys come in from work, they yelled out, "Fall over, fall over." Albie fell over. And they said, "Oh, cart him away," so they carted him away. Then they said I could go, but I couldn't go. All I've got left now is pain in the chest, nowhere else. Only pain in the chest, nothing else. So they come and got me, but they made a mistake. They damaged my feet a bit for the time. It really hurt them, because I was frozen into the ice. The ice had set around my feet on one sheet of ice, standing on a sheet of ice, frozen there. And well, they took me in, and now they worked on me all night to get some beds and get me something mobile.
Was this just back at your own hut or into the hospital hut?
No, it was Rowley.
Okay.
And they bathed me with warm water. And anyhow, next day the Japs said I had to go to work. Rowley said, "You can't go to work, you can't even stand up." So he found somebody that they'd given permission to stay home, not to go, to take my place, to go to work. So anyhow, the next day I could wobble around a bit. Well, when I went back, I mainly went out, and instead of hauling the logs, I used to go out, leapfrog the logs. You go out and you have a long pole with a hook on it, one straight and one like that. And it's ride a log in, and you bring two in with you, see? And you'd shoot a log forward, then shoot this one forward, then you just hook the end of one and give a kick and come up between them, and you take 3 logs at a time into the beach.
It must have been a real balancing act.
Oh, the Japs used to have a lot of fun at my expense. Monday, they knew I was going to fall in. But that's sort of the point. After I never spoke for 3 months, couldn't talk, just had no voice. Well, this is where I used to get into trouble when they loaded the trucks. I didn't know a lot of Japanese, but I knew what they were saying. And they'd tell me to tell the boys something, and I'd turn around, they didn't hear it. So of course you get a bell out of right here. So anyhow, the day I got my voice back, we're walking back, and I would get a bit gruffy, and I said to Jeff McCall, I said, I spat on the snow. I thought, that looks funny. So I spat in my hand. I said to Jeff, I've got the words out, I'm going rusty. By the time I got back to camp, I was pretty crook. So Jeff went to Rowley, he said, "Blue's pretty crook." He said, "Yeah," and he said, "I can't do anything after night call." So we had to go out on Tanko at 10 o'clock at night. No matter what you did all day, 10 o'clock at night you had to go out and stand in the stone your bloody roll call. He took me out, they helped me out there and helped me back again. And Rowley says, "Now I can do something." They had a little room about as big as this, I suppose. Well, it might be a bit bigger. Hospital bay room, you know, and had a little coal fire in the middle. And there was blokes sitting around. And then they sat me up against the wall, going on to 2 boards of a broken board